Dear students, this is the last session of our lockdown special video classroom, and let me introduce myself Baijuman P, HOD of PG Department of Commerce, Government College, Malappuram. So this session is intended for the second semester MCOM students of Calicut University from the paper Advanced Cost Accounting and the last module, Emerging Costing Approaches. So I am taking two important concepts from emerging costing approaches, productivity management and theory of constraints. First of all, let us discuss about productivity management. You might have heard about the definition of productivity. One of the classic definition of productivity is that it is a way of measure of efficiency. So productivity is how to measure the output that comes from the units of input. We know the business are now remaining in a competing economy, and in order to increase the productivity, every firm resort to many modes for increasing the productivity. So the productivity is a measure of how much input is required to achieve the given output, or we can say productivity is equal to output divided by input. We know production is a systematic activity of converting the raw material into finished goods which have higher value. Production is calculated through the output generated and is independent of the quantity of inputs used for this purpose. The production quantity may be increased by employing more human resources, installing more machinery without considering the cost. So these two concepts, that is production and productivity, are entirely different. Production can be increased by employing this more and more human resources, or we can install the machine which have more capacity, or we can employ more laborers, we can increase the production. But increase in production does not always correspond to increase in efficiency or increase in productivity. Higher productivity may be achieved by increasing the efficiency of resources used. So we have to differentiate between the two terms, production and also productivity. So this is a classical example how to distinguish between the production as well as productivity. We know from the given example, it is seen that in the January, February and March, the production has increased from 50,000 units to 63,000 units. But when compared to the machine hours, it also increased gradually, that means 5,000, 6,000 and 7,000. So once we calculate about the productivity, what happens is that in the month of January, it is only 10 units, that is 50,000 divided by 5,000 machine hours, it is only 10 units. And in the month of February, it is 9.5 units, and in the month of March, it is 9 units. So it is very clear that once the production increases, because of the machine hours also increases, what happens really is that the productivity decreases. So I hope there is now you can differentiate between production and also productivity. So this productivity, it is a composition of the several factors. You might have heard about the different units of production, namely the land, labor, material and organization. So once this it is measured on the basis of this, it is known as the factor productivity. So coming to the labor productivity, we know it is the output which is divided by the labor input, And taking into example the capital productivity, it is output divided by capital input, and coming to the material productivity, it is output divided by material inputs. So, the total factor productivity, another concept relating to productivity is total factor productivity. Some factor of production are available in-house while others need to be brought from outside. So, this total factor production means the output divided by the labor and the capital inputs, that is what is meant by the total factor productivity. And the total productivity, what do you mean by the total productivity? It is the ratio of the total output to the sum of all the resources intended for producing them. So, the input and the output has to be measured in the real currency terms for a reference period to calculate the total productivity. So, or we can say total productivity is equal to total tangible outputs divided by total tangible inputs. Why here the word tangible is used? Because we have to measure it in terms of some real currency, then only we can calculate the total productivity. I hope you are clear about the concept of production, productivity, this factor productivity and the total productivity concepts. Then coming to the labor productivity, as we have already discussed, it depends upon how the labors are utilized. You might have heard that the labor or the human resource is the most important resource for any organization. That means, without this human resource, an organization cannot employ the other factors of production, or the organization cannot achieve its target without employing these human resources. So, this labor productivity, it may be low or high depending upon the factors like the availability of workload, material, working tools, availability of power, work efficiency, level of motivation, level of working condition, etc. For example, if the workload availability is very low, we cannot blame the worker for it, or we cannot blame the worker for it. If the materials are not available or if the machine tools are not available, we cannot blame our worker. So, labor productivity is measured in terms of hours or money. So, labor productivity is equal to output divided by labor inputs. So, the labor productivity, when measured in terms of hours, it is the total quantity produced divided by actual man hours required to produce that quantity having that quality. So, if it is measured in terms of money, we can say the total cost or the sales value of the output produced divided by amount in terms of rupees spent on workers. That means, how much resources we are employed on the workers. And the first case, how much hours we are spent on workers, and the second case, how much resources, that means the wage we are spending on the workers. For example, you might have heard a company which is processing the fruits and vegetables. It can produce 400 cases in 1 half with 4 workers. So, how to calculate the labor productivity? Labor productivity is equal to total quantity produced divided by labor hours. So, what is the total quantity produced? Here the 400 cases of peaches, that is the quantity produced. How many workers are required? 4 workers are required. And how much time a worker take? 1/2 hours, only half hours for worker. So, the resultant figure or the answer will be 200 cases per labor hour. So, that is the labor productivity in this case. Then coming to the machine productivity. We know the production system convert the raw material into the finished products through some mechanical process or chemical process, that is with the help of machines or equipments. So, machine productivity depends upon the availability of raw material, power, skill of workers, machine layout, etc. So, machine productivity is equal to output divided by material input, or we can say output which is measured in standard hours divided by the actual machine hours. For example, if we want to calculate the productivity of a machine produce 68 usable pieces in 2 hours, that means the output is 68 usable pieces, and how much is the actual machine hours? It is 2 hours. That means the productivity or the machine productivity calculated is 34 pieces per hour. Then we have to discuss what are the tools for increasing the productivity. So, it is clear from the previous sessions that productivity, it is a resource, or it is intended for the whole economy. So, once the productivity is increased, what will happen? The per capita income will increase, and also the standard of living of the people will increase. That means as the overall result will be on the economy of the country's economy also flourishes. So, what are the tools for increasing the productivity? First one is product development. So, once we develop the product which caters to the needs of the consumers, then the productivity is increased. It is a waste for the nation that we are producing the unwanted goods. So, produce only those goods which are needed for our consumers. Then specialization and standardization. So, once we specialize in the manufacture of a certain commodity and we standardize it, then none of our competitors can beat us. So, we have to move towards the specialization and standardization. Then market, consumer and product research. Research is an inevitable thing for every business. So, once the business have to understand the consumer and market the products, then only it can beat its competitors. Value analysis. What is value analysis? There is a value for everything. So, once the business, from the business income, it deducts all its expenses, we can have this concept known as value. Then process planning and research. Several research are now undertaking in the business field for improving the process. So, once the process have to be well planned and a research have to be conducted in the process, we can easily cater to it. Then method study. There are several ways for manufacturing a product, several methods for manufacturing a product. So, that method which have the minimum effort or which have the minimum movement or easily adaptable should be adopted. So, next is operator training. So, once we are giving training to the operators, we can see that only with the help of training the efficiency of the employees can be increased. Then production planning and control. Production should be planned effectively and there should be a control over the production. That means overproduction or underproduction both are not beneficial to a business undertaking. Material control. We might have heard about the different tools and techniques of material control. That means the proper material, that means the economic order quantity of material or the proper material issue should be there for, and material should be effectively controlled in order to increase the productivity. Then plant maintenance. Plant should be properly maintained. Suitable person should be entrusted for the maintenance of the plant at the adequate time. Improved working conditions. No doubt that if the working conditions are improved, it will help to increase the productivity. Safety. The safety of the workers must be ensured. Otherwise, it will create more disaster for the organization. Then personnel policy. Every organization should have a suitable personnel policy for the recruiting the workers, then attracting the workers and sending them to the various training purposes, etc. Then they should be given proper incentives also. So, only the hard work, if the hard work is suitably rewarded, then only it will help to increase the productivity. Then we have to discuss what are the factors influencing the productivity. The factors influencing the productivity we can categorize it into 5 components. They are technological development, individual factors, organization factors, work environment and other factors. So, what about this technological development? So, the factors influencing the productivity coming under the technological development, the areas are the size of the plant. We know if the size of the plant is very high, then automatically the production will also be high. Then the research and development. Nowadays, organizations are spending crores of money for the purpose of research and development, and only if the research and development is suitable, then only the concern can prove to be fruitful. Plant and job layout. The layout of the plant should be suitably planned by an engineering department, then only it will help to improve the productivity. Machine and equipment design. For this machine and equipment, there are some machines which are very weak in production and some sophisticated machines which are very good in production. Organization have to adopt such a machine and equipment which are best suited for the production processes. The production processes also, for producing a particular component, there are various production processes. Which production process is suitable, that have to be selected. Power, raw material, etc. One of the main problem which decreases the productivity is that the wastage of power as well as the raw material. So, the wastage of power and raw material should be kept at the minimum to improve the productivity. Scientific management techniques. There are a scientific number should be adopted for every production technique, then only it should be fruitful. Then various industrial factors, that is the factors which are relating to the industry, are to be considered for increasing the productivity. The organizational factors, there should be an organizational hierarchy. The command should be moved in a particular direction, that should be adopted. The work environment should be such that it should be feasible for every person who is working in an organization. That should be friendly to him, and the ecological and the economical conditions of working should be very feasible. Then coming to the other factors, there are natural factors, management factors, the government policy. All these factors influence the productivity. So far we have discussed about the productivity and its various tools for increasing the productivity. Then what is the importance of productivity? Why we are more stressing about the productivity? In the business, as we have firstly stated, every business intends to beat the competition. That means only the fittest will survive in the area of the business. So, to beat the competition, productivity is a must for an organization. And to get to the management for the strategic decisions. That means the strategic decisions will determine what is the future of the organization. It will determine whether the business needs to exist there or to vanish from there. So, that is strategic decision, it is very useful. For the tactical decision, whether we are meeting our standards or we are meeting our goals, it is important. For the day-to-day planning and for the day-to-day administration, the productivity is very much important. It is an indicator of the progress. Once we have already stated that once the productivity is increased, what will happen? The income of the workers will increase, the per capita income of the country will increase, the standard of living of the people will increase. So, it is an indicator of the progress. Maximum utilization of the scarce resources. The resources of production, whether it may be labor, the material or money, we know it is a very scarce resources. So, these scarce resources have to be put into alternative uses, and that is also the importance of productivity. Then key to national prosperity. the national prosperity or the prosperity of a nation depends upon the standard of living of the people, and once the productivity is increased, automatically the standard of living of the people will also increase. Prosperity to labor, it is no need to state that the productivity increases the prosperity of labor, their wages will increase, their prosperity will also increase. So, that is all about the productivity. So, another area I would like to discuss here is about the theory of constraints. That is one of the part coming under the emerging costing approaches. So, coming to the theory of constraints, it was developed and popularized by Eliyahu Goldart. So, it is commonly the theory of constraint recognizes that organization exists to achieve a goal. That means every organization has a goal to attain, and the purpose behind every organization is that to achieve that goal. So, what is a constraint? So, before proceeding with the theory of constraint, we have to discuss what is a constraint. What is a constraint? A factor that limits the company's ability to achieve more of its goal is referred to as a constraint. So, what hinders a company from achieving its goal, that is what is meant by a constraint. It is clear in this example. So, the demand for parts produced by a computer controlled piece of equipment known as NCX10 exceeded the machine's capacity. So, the capacity is least, but the demand is more. When the demand is more, we are not able to produce that commodity because of our machine's capacity. So, it is clear that the capacity of the factory was tied directly to the output of the NCX10. So, that is a constraint here. Why it is a constraint? Because the factory could assemble and sell as many products as they had parts from this machine. There is only one machine available. The machine has a limited capacity, but the demand for the commodity is much higher. So, the machine capacity is a constraint here. So, to manage the constraints, then only the business can achieve its goal. It is very essential. So, the Goldart proposes a 5-step process of ongoing improvement for achieving this goal, and that steps are identify, exploit, subordinate, elevate, and the last is go back to step 1. Let us see how this process operates. First step is identify what is our constraint. So, in order to manage a constraint, it is essential to identify the constraint. So, what is our constraint here? The NCX10 was identified as the constraint. Why it is identified as the constraint? Because our factory has a limited capacity to produce the NCX10, but the demand is much high. So, this knowledge helped the company to determine where an increase in productivity leads to an increase in profits. So, once this is a constraint, that means NCX10 is a constraint, and we are concentrating on the production of some other commodity, we cannot increase the profit. So, to identify the constraint is the first and foremost step in the theory of constraints. So, if we are concentrating on a non-constrained resource, as I have told earlier, that if we are concentrating on another product, for example, NCX11, we find that it is not our constraint, and the increase of productivity of any other component will not increase the profits. So, to increase the throughput or the revenue, flow through the constraint must be increased. So, we have to concentrate more on the constraint and have to increase it. And the second step is exploit. So, once we identify the constraint, we have to focus on how to get more and more production within the existing capacity limitations. it is already clear that our machine has a limited capacity. When the company and labor union agreed to stagger the lunges, that means to have part with the lunges or to shift the lunges or brakes and shift changes so that the machine could produce during times it previously sat idle. You might have heard that nearly 1 hour is allotted for the lunch of the employees. If we undertake a shift system for this lunch purpose, then automatically what will happen? The machine will not sat idle and it can produce up to its maximum. So, this added significantly to the output of the NCX10 and thereby the output of the entire plan. So, to manage the output of the plan, a schedule was created for the constraint, and this schedule showed the sequence in which orders were to be processed and their approximate starting time also. And coming to the third step, subordinate. That means exploiting the constraint does not ensure that the materials needed next by the constraint will always show up on the time. So, the most important component of subordination is to control the way materials is fed to the non-constrained resources. That means the non-constrained resources have also to be taken care of. We must not concentrate more on the non-constrained resources. So, this theory of constraint says that non-constrained resources should only be allowed to process enough materials to match the output of the constraint. So, the release of materials is closely controlled and synchronized to the constrained schedule. That means more and more importance should be given to the constraint and not to the non-constraint. That is, the non-constraint have to be subordinated in favor of the constraint. Then the fourth step is elevation. That means to determine if the output of the constraint is enough to supply market demands. If not, it is necessary to find more capacity by elevating the constraint. So, once the NCX10 is the constraint, we have to increase the production of the NCX10 and to check whether it is enough to meet the market demand. If not, it is not able to meet the market demand, we have to elevate the capacity. So, how to elevate the capacity? We have to remove the sum of the load from the constraint by rerouting it across the 2 or more machines. We have to adopt and have to reroute here. They also outsourced some work and brought in an older machine that could process some of the parts made by the NCX10. Some of the older machines can be adopted and it should also be effectively utilized. There were always all ways of adding capacity or elevating the constraints. And the last step is go back to step 1. Why go back to step 1? Once the output of the constraint is no longer the factor that limits the rate of fulfilling orders, it is no longer a constraint. That means once this NCX10 is no longer a constraint, we cannot sit idle that our constraint is over. We have to go back to the step 1 and identify the other constraints. So, thank you dear students for your patient listening. So, I have gone through the 2 components of our module, that is the productivity and theory of constraints. Hope you understand well. Stay in touch. Thank you.